The death of 46-year-old French streamer Raphaël Graven, also known online as Jean Pormanove, on August 18th, 2025, was a tragedy for the global live streaming community and a tragedy for everyone. His death occurred during a nearly 300-hour continuous live stream on the platform Kick. This was not an accident. This was a series of failures that led to this man's death. His death was caused by the predatory business model of monetized humiliation online, the complicity of a paying audience, and the negligence of the platform Kick, which is built on permissive moderation, if there's any moderation at all. The death of Jean Pormanove exposes the dark underbelly of the creator economy and the live stream culture, where the relentless pursuit of engagement can foster a toxic grind culture that pushes individuals past their physical and psychological limits. His death has started a global debate on the ethical boundaries of online entertainment, suggesting that platforms and even governments should be involved in regulating this type of content. This is the story of the death of Jean Pormanove. Let's get spooky. Hey, spooky people. It's your best friend Kenny here. We are back with another spooky, disturbing story. Before we get to today's story, let's make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Let's make sure that you like and share this video. Share this video with the pizza guy. You know, he's probably got some time back at the pizza place before he has to go out and deliver pizzas, and I'm sure a nice, spooky, disturbing video will help him pass the time. So thank you. Raphaël Graven was born on January 26, 1979 in France. Before he was an internet personality, he was a soldier in the French army. People who knew him at this point of his life paint a picture of an individual who struggled within the rigid military structure. He was described as gullible and not very bright, easily influenced. He's also been described as physically fragile, unable to perform basic exercises like push-ups, which ultimately led to his departure from the army. As part of the investigation, he has been described as a vulnerable person. Graven entered the world of online content creation in March 2020, adopting the pseudonym Jean Pormanove. He began on platforms like TikTok and Twitch, and he initially focused on popular and relatively conventional genres of humorous videos and video game streams. His gaming content included titles like Grand Theft Auto, FIFA, and Fortnite. This helped him build a substantial audience. On Twitch alone, he amassed 669,000 followers, and his streams totaled more than 35 million views. His online persona was defined by an explosive and interactive tone, punctuated by moments of rage and absurd challenges. This persona was a stark contrast from the friendly and gullible man described by his army friends, but it was highly effective in the streaming landscape, and it established him as a significant figure within the French online community. A shift happened in Graven's career in 2023 when he migrated from Twitch to the newer rival platform Kick. This move was a strategic decision that fundamentally altered the nature of his content, and it began his trajectory towards extreme and dangerous performances. By August 2024, he had become the most viewed French streamer on Kick and ranked as the 4th most watched globally, which showed that he was successful in this new direction. Kick was founded by the creators of a cryptocurrency casino and has aggressively courted streamers with a highly attractive revenue split, allowing creators to keep 95% of their earnings. And it has a widely publicized reputation for looser and more permissive content moderation policies compared to Twitch. This proved to be a fertile ground for the escalation of Pormanove's content, and his streams moved away from gaming and towards extreme challenges, provocations, humiliations, and obscenity. The money incentives and the culture of the platform actively cultivated and amplified this type of content. Graven's career arc demonstrates how platforms can directly influence and radicalize creator content, pushing it towards even more dangerous extremes in the pursuit of an audience engagement and revenue. The traits that made him susceptible to influence in early life showed their faces again in this new high-risk digital life. The death of Raphaël Graven was the conclusion of a long and public ordeal. The timeline of events leading up to his final broadcast had escalating violence, multiple warnings to authorities, and failures of intervention on every level. The president of the French Human Rights League stated, "It was like the chronicle of a death foretold." His final broadcast was marketed as an endurance challenge, but was described by viewers and media as 10 days and nights of torture. Over the course of nearly 300 hours, Graven was subjected to a relentless barrage of physical and psychological abuse, all captured on camera for a live audience. The The clips that have circulated after his death documented numerous acts of violence and humiliation. These include being repeatedly slapped and punched, shot at with paintball guns, and subjected to what was described at the time as mock strangulation. He was doused with water, paint, and oil. And beyond the physical abuse, he endured severe sleep deprivation, with co-streamers waking him with loud noises or splashing water on his face, along with constant verbal harassment and insults. And the videos are very hard to watch. The people who were streaming with them, and of course their lawyers, would later claim that the events were staged and consensual. However, there has been evidence that has emerged that suggests that Graven felt trapped and was participating under duress. One of the most disturbing pieces of evidence is a text message he sent to his mother during this stream, where he said, "Hi, Mom, how are you? Stuck for a bit in this death game. It's going too far. I feel like I'm kidnapped with their concept. I'm fed up. I want to get out of here. The other guy won't let me. He's keeping me locked in." This private admission to his mom is corroborated by an on-stream interaction that resurfaced after his death. In the clip, a guy streaming with him named Owen Naruto is seen pressuring Graven to absolve them of any future blame. He demands, let him say on camera right now that if he dies tomorrow in the middle of a live show, it's due to his shitty state of health and not us. When Graven hesitates, Naruto insists, outlining a scenario where Graven suffers a cardiac arrest and concluding, people are going to take it out on us when it's due to your 46 years of miserable life. This exchange shows that Naruto was aware of the potentially fatal risks of what they were doing. And it's a disturbingly cynical attempt to create a piece of exculpatory evidence in advance, attempting to script their own innocence. In the final hours of broadcast, viewers began to notice that Graven was lying motionless on a mattress, unresponsive to comments in the chat. The line between performance and a genuine crisis was becoming clear. The alarm was reportedly raised by a viewer who made a donation to get the attention of the other streamers in the room. One of the other streamers was then seen throwing a plastic water bottle at Graven's motionless body in an attempt to wake him. When he remained motionless, the live stream was abruptly terminated. Authorities were alerted and arrived at his home on the morning of August 18th, 2025, where they found him alone and dead. The circumstances of his death are a paradox of live streaming and this type of live streaming. He was under constant surveillance by thousands of viewers, but the audience was conditioned by days of watching suffering as entertainment, and they couldn't recognize that there was a real emergency. The constant broadcast would seem to have oversight, but since the audience was desensitized, its participants were unable to act to save his life. On August 21st, 2025, the prosecutor's office released the preliminary findings of the autopsy performed on Raphaël Graven. The report's conclusions immediately created a new narrative surrounding his death. Forensic experts found an absence of traumatic lesion, internal or external, and noted no injuries corresponding to burns. The statement concluded that Graven's death was not traumatic in origin and was not related to the intervention of a third party. Instead, the probable causes were identified as being of medical or toxicological origin. The prosecutor also noted that Graven had pre-existing health conditions, including known cardiac and thyroid-related issues for which he was receiving treatment. The medical evidence ruled out a direct single act of violence, such as being hit in the head, as a cause of death. But there was nearly 300 hours of video evidence documenting a sustained campaign of physical abuse, extreme stress, and severe sleep deprivation. Headlines would quickly declare that the death was not linked to torture claims, but many in the online community and among the public argued the relentless pressure and abuse created the physiological conditions for the fatal medical event, such as a cardiac arrest. The prosecutors now have a challenge to establish a chain of causation that links his fellow streamers' actions to Graven's death, even without a direct traumatic injury. Despite the fact that the public believes that the individuals involved in the stream and the platform involved in the stream were culpable, the autopsy finding suggests that they were scientifically not. Graven's death occurred against a backdrop of an ongoing judicial investigation that had begun 8 months earlier in December 2024. The initial probe was launched following a media report and focused on deliberate violence against vulnerable persons. During this investigation, an event occurred. When interviewed by police in January 2025, Graven himself strongly denied being the victim of violence, stating that the events were staged in order to generate a buzz and make money. This denial became a cornerstone of the defense put on by the co-streamers' lawyers, who have consistently maintained that the scenes were scripted and consensual acts of performance art. But Graven's denial to authorities should be looked at as a symptom of the exploitive dynamic in which he lived in. His financial and social livelihood were intertwined with the people he streamed with. His official statement protected the very system that he would later say made him feel kidnapped. This is a dynamic where a victim protects the abuser out of dependency, fear, or a distorted sense of loyalty. And this is a well-known feature of abusive relationships. It highlights the difficulty that law enforcement faces when intervening in cases of consensual exploitation, where the victim may be an unreliable narrative of their own suffering due to the complex psychological pressures of their environment. Now, under French law, consent may not be a defense. One of the core principles of French law is that violence cannot be justified by consent of the victim. The prosecutor has the power to pursue charges for violent acts even without a complaint from the victim, as their role is to protect society as a whole. Therefore, even if Graven had consented to every act perpetrated against him, his consent would not legally absolve the perpetrators of criminal liability for the violence itself. The investigation is open, and it's focused on charges including voluntary violence in a group on a vulnerable person. And the legal outcome will hinge on the ability of the prosecution to navigate the complexities of what happened and whether it was related to his death and consent in this type of live stream digital context. In December 2024, the French investigative news outlet Mediapart published a groundbreaking report that exposed the mechanics of what it termed an abuse business, or a business of violence. The investigation detailed how a small group of streamers, including Naruto, had built a lucrative enterprise around the live stream humiliation and abuse of vulnerable individuals, with Jean Pormanove as a central figure. Mediapart's analysis revealed a clear economic model. The streamers would subject Graven and others to degrading and violent acts, and in return, they would receive a stream of donations and subscriptions from a live audience. By monitoring just 3 of their live streams, Mediapart estimated that the group had generated approximately 13,000 euros in donations in November 2024 alone. The media report and the analysis of this case takes the audience and changes them from passive voyeurs to active, financially invested participants in abuse. Kick's interactive features, especially the ability to make real-time donations with accompanying messages, created a direct feedback loop. Viewers were paying to instigate and escalate specific acts of violence and humiliation. They weren't just watching. This effectively gamified cruelty, transforming the live stream into a participatory blood sport where human suffering was a central mechanic and financial transactions were the control. Legal experts have suggested that this level of active encouragement and financial incentive could potentially meet the legal standard for complicity in violence. The live stream system diffuses responsibility. Each viewer's small donation can be easily rationalized. And while the streamers can claim they're simply fulfilling the demands of their market, the platform in turn, can position itself as a neutral host. And this creates a place where everyone is partially responsible, and therefore no one feels fully responsible for the tragic outcome. Jean Pormanove's death was both foreseeable and preventable. The Mediapart investigation was the first public alarm. In February 2025, a human rights organization filed a complaint with ARCOM, which is the French audiovisual and digital communication regulator, explicitly stating that Pormanove was in real danger and describing the acts he was subjected to as severe torture and abuse. Despite these warnings from journalists and advocates, no effective action was taken to intervene or shut down the streams. The fact that they didn't act shows an inability to respond with the speed and decisiveness required to address imminent harm in the fast-paced, borderless world of live streaming. Kick was registered in Australia and launched in 2022. It was the digital arena for the events leading to Jean Pormanove's death, and its emergence and growth are linked to a business strategy that positioned it as a permissive and creator-friendly alternative to its main rival, Amazon's Twitch. Kick was founded by billionaires Ed Craven and Bijan Tehrani, who are also behind the massive cryptocurrency casino Stake.com. The platform offers a 95-5 revenue split for creators. Twitch has a 50-50 or 70-30 split. It also has a reputation for moderation laxity as a core feature of its market strategy. It's designed to attract streamers and their audiences who have been banned from or feel constrained by the stricter rules of other platforms. And this strategy has been successful. And the platform has profited from these conditions, the very conditions that enabled the extreme content of Pormanove's final streams. In the aftermath of Pormanove's death, Kick engaged in a series of damage control measures. The company issued public statements expressing that they were deeply saddened and offer condolences to Pormanove's family and community. They pledged to cooperate fully with the French authorities and announced that all of these streamers who participated in the final broadcast had been banned from the platform pending the outcome of the investigation. However, these actions were quickly overshadowed by a controversy when Pormanove's Kick channel was restored a few days after his death. Kick claimed that this was done to make the content accessible to investigators, but the move was publicly condemned by the French regulator Arcom, which stated that providing evidence to authorities cannot justify lifting the block on the channel for the general public. The French government responded with a strong condemnation. The Minister for Digital Affairs publicly labeled the death as an absolute horror and decried the months of humiliation and mistreatment Pormanove had endured on Kick. She emphasized that the responsibility of online platforms to remove illegal content is not optional. It is the law. She would later describe an extremely tense video conference with representatives from Kick, whom she characterized as being in t-shirts, slouched over, who do not realize the seriousness of what is happening. This account shows that there is an ethical and cultural disconnect between the fast-moving, globally distributed tech platform and the national regulators that have been attempting to hold it accountable. The news of Jean Pormanove's death sent shockwaves through the online community. There was an immediate outpouring of grief, shock, and anger. While his friend and co-streamer Naruto pleaded with the public not to circulate the distressing footage of his final broadcast, clips depicting moments of humiliation and violence quickly went viral across platforms like Reddit and Twitter. The spread of this content that defined his final days fueled a widespread public debate about responsibility in the nature of online entertainment. Beyond the initial shock, discussions within the community quickly evolved into a broader critique of the systemic issues within the live streaming industry. On Reddit, users pointed to the tragedy as a direct consequence of the toxic grind culture and the intense subathon pressure. This is an environment where creators are economically incentivized to perform marathon streams and engage in increasingly extreme stunts to attract and retain subscribers and donations. Many argue that Pormanove's death should serve as a breaking point that forces the industry to have a long overdue reckoning with its own extreme content and the profound lack of safety measures for creators who risk their health for engagement. Many fans and critics have said that the pressures of this culture, indirectly or directly, led to his death. The story spread across the globe following the intervention of major figures in the streaming and music industries. Adin Ross, who is one of Kick's most prominent streamers, addressed the death on his own stream, condemning the situation as up and horrible. He also told his massive audience that Kick is being heavily investigated. Whoever was streaming that is being heavily investigated. The governments are getting involved. This was a public acknowledgement from a major Kick personality that the platform was facing serious regulatory and governmental pressure. Shortly afterwards, Ross announced that he and Drake, the rapper, would cover the full cost of Pormanove's funeral. This gesture of charity was widely praised online. Their high-profile reaction amplified the story far beyond the French-speaking world, but it also served to co-opt the narrative into a larger discussion about Kick's legitimacy. And it struggled to sanitize its image amidst the ongoing platform wars with Twitch. The death of Raphaël Graven, also known as Jean Pormanove, was the predictable outcome of a cascade of failures in our digital culture. He was a person who is vulnerable, and he was vulnerable to the predatory dynamics of his co-streamers, the gamified cruelty of an audience that paid to see his humiliation, and the profit-driven business model of a platform that incentivized extreme content through lax moderation. Everyone involved in this is responsible for his death. Now, whether or not this becomes a true watershed moment for the live streaming industry remains to be seen. It should. There should be a situation where people realize that these types of streams need to stop, but we'll see. However, his death is an unbelievable tragedy, and it's terrible that he and his family had to endure this. Make sure that you're subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Please make sure that you like and share this video. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and TikTok. My username is The Spooky Lawyer. If there is a spooky or disturbing story you would like me to research and cover, leave a comment. Or if you like the video, leave a comment. Or you can send me an email. My email address is thespookylawyer@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a link in the description to buy me a coffee, so buy me a coffee. Or you can become a member of the channel And for the $1.99 tier, you can get access to exclusive content, including exclusive videos. You will also get access to my normal videos before they are made public. I would appreciate you considering this. You also support me by clicking like, sharing, and watching my videos. And I really do appreciate that you watch my videos. And please stay spooky.